for those who are rewatching this on our YouTube channel or by any other method, we are grateful that you are taking the opportunity to view this, and we're going to be joined by Ashwin from UCLA, who is going to talk about some of the tips and tools and some techniques for navigating our virtual space and navigating digital spaces. So thank you, Ashwin, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Yes, thank you everyone. So today we are going to be talking about the various digital functions and techniques. This includes using Zoom, different browsers, Google Suites, and even setting up our own Gmail accounts. Okay. To start off, we're going to start off talking about Zoom and what it is. So Zoom is this easy to use platform for messaging, cloud meetings, conferencing, and webinars. So Zoom is used by over 700,000 businesses globally, and through the recent pandemic with lockdowns, more than 50% of organizations and companies are starting to hold meetings through Zoom. So it is very important that we make ourselves familiar with virtual spaces such as Zoom, as a lot of activities are transitioning to online. And by familiarizing ourselves with Zoom, we're also going to be more familiar with different virtual spaces such as Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts, as they all use similar interfaces. Okay, to start out, we're going to start out by talking about the Zoom toolbar functions. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you could see a couple of functions on there. So on the left, you have your mute button. So whenever you want to speak, you just click the unmute button. And for video, you have the same function where you could turn on and off your video. Other than that, sharing your screen as like I'm doing right now, it's the big green button in the center. And then we're also going to be talking about more functions, in particular in the following slides, such as the chat. Okay, so first let's start off by talking about the Zoom chat box. On the bottom of your page, if you scroll down, you'll find something that looks like a message. If you click it, that will be your chat box, and through that you can access the chat. So we're going to take a second now and introduce ourselves in the chat. So with that, so write your name, a fun fact about yourself, and something you're looking forward to, especially with Thanksgiving coming up. So we'll all take a second to do that. Okay, nice to meet everyone. Melanie, Christine. Yes, eating pie. Yeah, and sometimes with the chat, you can also leave the chat open on the side of your Zoom screen, because oftentimes we tend to miss what's happening there. Yes, looking forward to seeing family, seeing our pets, Thanksgiving, back to break. If people are excited for shopping, Black Friday's coming up. But yeah, that's the chat function on Zoom. And this is something that's pretty universal across different platforms, where if you click the message looking icon, you could go into it and start typing up messages. I guess the other important thing I want to mention with the chat is if you look at the bottom on right near where you type the message, there's a blue box that says everyone. If you want to message someone personally in the meeting, make sure to scroll down and click who you're messaging to. And also another thing is sometimes it gets locked to that person. So before you're sending out your message, make sure that everyone is highlighted in blue, which is pretty important. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Okay, so the next one is changing your name on Zoom. So this is also important if you go by your nickname or some other name. So to change your name, if you go to your screen and you see your picture, on the side there's a little button with 3 dots on it. If you click it, you could click rename. So we'll all take a second to, I think this is going backwards. Yeah. So we'll all take a second to go in and change your name to your preferred nickname if you go by one, and also add in our pronouns. So he, him, she, her, they, them. Yeah, so if everyone wants to take a second and do that, that would be amazing. Yeah, so this is also very important if you're joining any meeting or attending some conference and you want to change your name to what people want to address you by. That is how you would do it. And the next thing is changing our backgrounds on Zoom. So this can be really helpful if there's any distractions in the background, if you have kids, if you're in a noisy place and you want to kind of block that out and focus more in on your meeting, you could go in and change your background. So to do that, you would go up to the settings menu. And if you click preferences, you could access your background. That should be a tab on your preferences. And once you go to virtual background, as you could see in the picture over here, you could click any of the backgrounds that they already have, or you could upload an image. Oh, as you can see Daisy's flowers. Yeah, another background is if you update to the newest version of Zoom, there's a blur function. So this is also really cool, especially if you have things going around in the background, as you can see on Antoinette's screen. So if anyone would like to change your background, feel free to go ahead and do so. Okay.
Thank
The
you,
next
Ashlyn. And sorry, real quick before we move on, I do want to stop just for a question in the chat for someone who has a Chromebook and is having trouble accessing these backgrounds. So I want to also share, like, there's the option of going to settings, but there's also an option of using your icons in the toolbar at the bottom. And if you just click near where it has your video function, so it either say stop video or start video, if there's an arrow there, you can click that and click choose virtual background. And you should have an option to choose between some preset backgrounds. Roxy, I'm wondering if you see that option on yours or if there is a different issue that maybe you might be having. But I'm wondering if that might be an alternative way for you to access your background.
Yeah, and also the same feature, same way to access background is also, I think it's similar on the iPad or if you're using a tablet as well. Yes. So the next section is annotating. So this is something I recently found out as well, that you could annotate on Zoom slides. So in order to annotate, you could move your cursor up to the top of your screen and you'd see something that looks like a pencil, a tilted pencil, like what it says, like on the picture. And if you click on that, you could actually annotate a slide. So we're going to try that out on the next slide right here. So that should say mountains, so I have a little question for you guys. So if you were going to take a trip Or in general, do you guys prefer the beach or the mountains? So if you prefer the beach, add a little heart into this square, or if you prefer the mountains, add a star into that square, and we'll see how it goes with that. So in order to do that, if you go to annotate and you click stamp, you should be able to find a bunch of different stamps that you could add to the page. Also, once you do that, feel free to try annotating onto the page as well.
And I see that maybe some of you don't see the annotate option at the top of the screen. I put this in the wrong spot. I don't know how to move it. I know that it might not be in the same spot for people. So real quick, I want to see if maybe you have at the very top of your screen, do you see a green bar? And I see everyone drawing hearts, some better than others. And now there's hearts going up all over the screen. Lovely. So if you don't see the annotate option, you might see a green bar that says you are viewing Ashwin screen, and then next to it, it might have view options with a drop down arrow. And if you click on that, then you can click annotate and get that bar of options such as drawing, stamping, arrows. Thank you, Melanie. Yes, if you are joining us from a phone, then you might also have fewer options on how you can annotate or what options you have to engage with the screen while you're on Zoom.
I'm loving all the hand-drawn hearts, though.
Yeah, it looks like the beach is really popular. Where are the mountain lovers?
I think they're here, actually. They've been hiking all week. I think they're here with us.
Yeah, we're all from Los Angeles, so we love that beach.
That's
Yeah.
true.
We got a couple OCers in the building there as well.
Yes, are there any questions so far regarding annotating, using the chat, changing your name, or using your background? No? All right, Ashwin, I think we are safe to move on. Friendly reminder, if you have any questions that might come up, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will be sure to uplift them for Ashwin, myself, or others to address as we work through these various tools and techniques. Thank you, Ashwin.
Ashwin, just a quick question. Is this annotate option only available when you have something like this where you're asking people to annotate, or anytime you're sharing a screen, for example, are people able to do that? Just to kind of figure out like courtesy, guidelines for annotation.
Yeah, so anytime any screen you should be able to annotate on as long as the function is turned on by whoever the host is. So for now I have it turned on, and on the sides where you can annotate, be nice. But yeah, you always have the ability to turn off annotations in case. Yeah. So the annotations are still there. Okay. There we go. Okay, so the next topic we're going to be talking about is browsers. So we are going to be talking about, in particular, Google Chrome. So Google Chrome is this high-speed, stylish interface. It's very secure with a wide range of extensions. And a really important thing about Google Chrome is that you could connect it across different devices. So if you open up Google Chrome on your phone, or your iPad or your computer or someone else's device, you should still have access to everything that you have. All the documents, all your email, everything should be accessible through Google Chrome. So I think I'm still empty. Yeah. So how many of you guys have a Google Chrome? You could tell me by using a thumbs up, the thumbs up function. It should be on, if you click more and reactions, nice. So a lot of us. Okay, so we're gonna take a second to download Google Chrome. So Google Chrome is a fast web browser, and to download Google Chrome, you would just go on any browser, type in Google Chrome, and then if you click download, it should download right up for you. So we'll take a second and everyone can download Google Chrome. Yeah. So it'll be really similar if you already have Google Chrome to download like a different browser. You would just type it up and then search up the extension and then click download, and you should be able to access it. And then once you download Google Chrome on your computer, you should be able to get the app on your phone, your other devices, and open it up there too. Yeah. And the way to download it should be the same on either Android or any other computer device. Or if you have an iPad or tablet, then you would just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the Chrome application. And there's a little picture of how you would do it on the tablet. Okay. And even if that's downloading, you guys could come back into the presentation. We're going to talk a little bit more on Google Chrome. So Google Chrome can be used to access information. And the most important point was that it could connect across different devices. And in order to benefit the most from a Google Chrome account is to set up your Gmail, which we will all be doing together later in this presentation. So I have a little screenshot of my Google account and how it looks. So if you click the top right corner, you have my name, my email, and then you could also access your suites and everything. Even whatever you search up will be saved to your account. And you could always delete that later. Okay. The next thing is note taking. So browsers and applications for note taking. So the Notes app is very helpful for taking notes. So on Android, this app is called Google Keep Notes, and on iPhone, it's the Notes app that's already pre-installed onto your phone. And through this app, you can create new notes, search for old notes, and the main feature I use this app for, other than making lists, is to scan documents. So now through this app, you don't have the need for a physical scanning machine where you need to put papers in and scan them. Instead, you could use the app, use the photo function. I think I explain it more in this side. Yeah. To use the scan function, you would create a new note. If any of you guys already have an iPhone, you could probably do this with me. You go to the Notes app, click on New Note, which is the plus button, or first click New Note and then the plus button. And then it would take you to scan documents. And through that, you could use the camera on your phone, and whatever document you're trying to scan, you could just scan it. And then that picture can be uploaded onto your computer. You could do that as easy as airdropping it or just emailing it to your computer. And through that, you could send the document anywhere. There's no need to get a scanning machine and pay for it and physically email copies of things. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is Google Suites. So Google Suites are the different little applications or workspaces that are a part of Google, which include Google Drive, your Gmail, Google Calendar, there's Google Conferencing, there's Google Contacts, where you could download all your contacts onto Google. There is Google Hangouts, where you could message people. And overall, all of these functions help organize both our personal and our business work. And all of these applications go together. So you don't need a separate account to access your Google Drive or your Google Calendar, for example. Everything goes together. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be exploring is your Google Drive. So a Google Drive is used to store both documents and files. So through Google Drive, you should have the ability to create a folder, and a folder you could organize different groups of documents into a folder. And you can also create blank documents to write notes or write papers, or sometimes I actually use Google Documents as a way for my emails. So I open up a Google document, type up any important email that I have. I could edit it, I could change the font, and once I do that, I paste it into my Gmail or whatever email account I'm using and send that email out to people. And it really helps organize it and helps minimize errors when you're going over emails. Okay, and how to use Drive, just once you go to your Google, if you have your Google account, you would click on Drive, and to make a new folder, you go to the top left and then click new, and then you can make a new folder, you can make a new document, a new Google Sheets, or you could also make a Google slideshow. So slideshow is basically a presentation like the one I made right here is through Google Slides. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is a little Google document activity. So how to use a Google Doc. There's a lot of functions on here, so I kind of wanted to show you guys how to do it with a practice document. So I'm going to stop the share of this. And we are going to go, I'm going to take you guys to this document. Okay. And also, while we're exploring this Google document, if you guys ever have any questions or want to see anything added, there's a lot you can do with the Google Doc. So just let us know in the chat, or you could raise your hand and ask any questions. So for Google Docs, one of the first things is just organizing the Google document. So if I want to type, for example, my name, I would do that. And then you could adjust your font. So I like using Times New Roman. Standard size is 12. You should be able to bold letters. If you want, you could type up any word. And then you should be able to change the color of it. You could highlight certain words. And another thing you can do is if you want to add a chart, you can go to Insert, click Table, and then you could add a little chart. And in the chart, you could separate it by columns. Yeah, you could put anything you want in the columns, change the font size. Another important thing is bullet point lists. So if you want to make a list of something, you'll go to the top right where you see 3 bullets. You could click on that and start a bullet point list. Sometimes it goes to right. Yeah. Yeah, and then just like the bullet point list, you could also make numbered lists of things. So if you want to list something with numbers. And I use a lot of Google Documents for writing papers. You could just write yourself notes, and then any documents that you want to add stuff to, you could also do it on Google Docs. Yeah, and another thing you could do if you ever want to insert photos, you go to the insert function and then click image, and you could upload from your computer or search the web, and it will put an image in. So are there any questions or anything you guys want to see with Google Drive that I haven't showed you guys yet or go over again?
Are there any functions, so for those who maybe do use Google, I don't know how many of you actually use Google Docs or might be completely new now to Google Docs as of today, but are there any features or any icons where you've seen, but you're like, hey, what does this do? I've never used this, that you want to take a moment to explore with Ashwin and ourselves?
If I could chime in, so my name is Ruben. I've been introduced to these functions that are being shown today, and just yesterday, I was really having trouble understanding the things that are being talked about today. So where were you yesterday, but no, but for reals, thank you. I really appreciate it. I am new, so just by introducing what this is very helpful. So I just want to say that I could, like, later on now, bring it down and then and know exactly what it is, because I used to hear it all the time and didn't have a clue what they were talking about, but now it's clear now. So thank you.
Of course, thank you so much. And yeah, if there's anything, any little function or button that you're confused about or want to know what it does, just feel free to unmute yourself or let us know in the chat.
Yeah, I got a question, Ashwin. This is Jay.
Hi, Jay.
What's good? I want to know about the margins, man, because I'll be having papers where I have to like do, different formats or whatever, and certain margin where, like, for instance, the top margin, like where the paragraph will start like 1.5 inches in, and then they want like when you annotate a bibliography, and then they want like another margin further in to put all the extra notes and stuff like that. So I'll have problems because when I try to set those margins, like I know back in the days when you used to set the margins, it would move, but now I'll set the margin, then I do like a backspace or something, then the margin will jump and something like that. So maybe a quick rundown on the margins and how to set it.
Yeah, so for margins, you would go to the File button on the top left and then click on Page Setup. So File, Page Setup. And once you go to Page Setup, you could see a tab that says Margins and how many inches you want. The standard is 1 inch on the tops and sides, but some papers might want 0.5. So you could change everything over to 0.5. And then if you click enter, all your margins will move. And another thing you can do, maybe change these two to 1. You should also be able to add footnotes or headers. So if you want to add a footnote, you would click insert and then footnote, and then you could type in a footnote about something. Yeah, anything you want to type in a footnote about, and that'll pop up at the bottom. And the same thing with headers. You could say insert header. And then on the header, I think, yeah. So you could go to the corner if you have a paper or something you want to write that you need to put something on the top of. Like a lot of them require you to write your last name and the page number. So you could just do that like that. And then that'll go for every single page that you make. So if you go down to the second page, you'd also have that header. Yeah,
And
good
real
question.
quick, Ashwin, if you want to click in the header one more time, you can also sometimes, like maybe your first page is a title page and you don't need a header or you need a different header. So you can also, if you click in the header and you're editing it, you can also change it to where maybe your first page has a different header, and it'll allow you to adjust that there. So now you will specifically be setting a different one. You can insert page numbers as well if you just want to put the regular page number for the header, and it'll allow you to do that. And then something else that I think is important to note is the difference between headers and footers, and then footnotes. So headers and footers put a standardized text that you type on the top or the bottom of every single page. And that's just to identify that page. If you want to have page numbers consistent, you can put those at the top or the bottom, and those will consistently add into your document as you add a new page. Whereas footnotes are specific notes for maybe a quote or a line item in your document. So those become numbers. So say if he clicks right around where it says hello and then puts another footnote, then it'll add another one there and allow you to put maybe the source or so sources like articles or books that you got that information from, or an explainer if you need to define a term. So those will number themselves, and you can add as many as you need for each page. But those are going to be different depending on what you want to identify. So footnotes are a little different than footers and headers. So just kind of wanted to differentiate between those two features in a document.
Yes, and so, yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then also page breaks. So for like to do like a title page, like Antoinette just conveniently reminded me of, thanks sis. So to you know, make it to where, or say for instance, let's say a bibliography, because I think a little bit more difficult. Like, so how do you set it to where you could type, and then once you quote something, go down and make a page at the end with your, you know, your sources, and then have it to where that page is just set separate by itself, and it, when you type, it doesn't run into it and try to push it out of sequence. You know what I mean? Like as far as just having it to where it stays on that one page, and it's like the ascending text doesn't get down there and kind of push it to where it might be in the middle of, you know, or something like that.
Yeah, so one tip I have with that, because I run into the same problem all the time, is that I type up my bibliography on a separate document, and once I finish writing everything else, I put the bibliography at the end, so it's right on the right page. But if it just goes down, whenever you finish writing everything else, you could just click backspace a couple times and it'll go reposition itself perfectly onto the page.
And another option, since you mentioned page breaks, is for you to click at the very beginning of that text. So no matter where it's at in a page, if you click at the very beginning of that text, so before the first letter of that text, so if the first letter is B for bibliography, you put your cursor, which is that little blinking line. If you put your cursor right before that and click page break, it'll automatically put it on a brand new page. So that's a way that you can do it as well. Anytime that you see that might happen, click and just put a page break and it'll put it on a brand new page.
Can you repeat that? Because Daisy just distracted me. So.
Daisy, what's going on over there? So what I was saying is what you can do is click at the very beginning of that text, no matter where it is, and click page break. And that'll automatically put it to a new page. So like for instance, Ashwin, if you want to demonstrate, if you were to automatically say click in front of the hello, if you put your cursor right in front of hello at the very beginning before the H. So say this is where your bibliography starts. And if you go to insert and insert break and click on page break, and this will automatically have it start on a new page. So no matter how much text he types on the next page, this is automatically going to be on a new page for itself because there's a page break right before it. So a lot of it depends on where you put that page break at. You want to put it before the very first line of text.
Yeah, that's new for me too. I need to start using that for my bibliographies as well.
Thank you, Annette. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, another really cool feature is the tools feature. So when you click on tools, you could click on spelling and grammar. And let's say I spell something wrong. Or sometimes I think I have it where it automatically fixes it for me. But if you click on tools, spelling and grammar check, it will check all the words that you've written. And if anything is spelled wrong, you could just click on it and then click fix or correct. And that'll correct any spelling mistakes that are on your document. Another cool thing is word count. So if you have to reach a certain word count for whatever reason, whether it's an email or you're trying to fill out a box of something and you need to count how many words, you don't need to manually count it. You just go to tools, word count, and that'll tell you, oh, there's 10 words on this page and 56 characters or letters. And it also tells you the number of pages. Yeah. So that's about most of the things, all the important things you can do with your Google Docs and Google Drive. And all these docs get stored onto your Google Drive account. So if I label this, let's say, introduction document. And then, or just introduction. I could go to my Google Drive, search up introduction, and then this document should pop up if I ever want to come back to it in the future. And then, okay, now we go back to the presentation.
Are there any questions real quick? Sorry, any other questions real quick on anything we've covered thus far? I just want to make sure that we're checking in and everyone is following and is understanding like these tools that we're giving you. Good, I see some thumbs up. Okay, I do want to uplift real quick one question that was put in the chat a little bit earlier in regards to Google, and it was just like basically asking, why do we want to have Google Chrome as our browser? And do we run the risk of getting any viruses in the event that we download, Google Chrome? So I'll answer like from my perspective and then open it up to Ashley and Daisy and for you to provide your input. But one thing that I think is really cool and unique about Google Chrome is it's widely supported. So oftentimes when you're filling out forms, submitting applications, doing things, oftentimes it will say Google Chrome's browser is preferred or recommended because it's a very widely supported browser. And then also for reasons of these features, like if you use Google Chrome as your primary browser, you have immediate access to docs, to sheets, to all in your, like the right-hand corner, it'll save to your drive and everything syncs up. So when you're working on a particular project or if you're completing, like for instance, completing an application and you have your Google Chrome browser open, you can click a new tab and easily go to your docs. And if you want to type up your response there to check for spelling, check for grammar before you submit it on a form, then you can have your docs right there in a new tab and everything connects to one another. So you have easy access, accessibility, and convenience. So those are some of the reasons that I prefer Google Chrome, and then also that syncing function. So if I have Google Chrome on here, if I recently searched something on my computer, I know I can go to Google Chrome on my phone and it'll still give me that recent search. It'll still allow me to access that particular website, just even if I don't remember it or if I don't have my computer in front of me. Bookmarks, favorites, things like that will sync between your devices for those who are using more than one device. But I definitely want to open it to Ashley and Daisy if you have any input as to why you'd recommend Google Chrome and what are the risks of getting a virus.
Yeah, and just adding on to that, Google Chrome is the most secure browser that you can download. It's the only browser that has not been hacked for multiple years straight, compared to like Microsoft, Firefox, and Safari, which have been hacked at least once. So this is the most secure browser that you can store all of your information onto. I guess some important things to keep in mind are whenever you're accessing your Google account on someone else's device, whether it be your friend's laptop or you're borrowing someone's device, make sure that you log out of your Google account. That's really important because that's the only way that it could get compromised. I guess another thing is if you go into your Google settings, you could turn on dual factor authenticity, or to make sure that like whenever like a foreign device accesses your Google account, you get an immediate security alert on your Gmail. And that could be done through the settings, Gmail settings. Yeah. So any other questions?
Correct me, you guys. I believe you said that the Google Chrome is better than Safari.
Both Google Chrome and Safari are great. It's just Google Chrome, you could connect different things such as your Drive, your calendar, your email, and everything onto one platform.
Okay, thank you.
And then also one more thing, and this is a question in the chat, but I think it also relates to using Google Chrome, using some of these applications is, so for instance, we mentioned earlier that for Zoom, we want to have the most up-to-date Zoom application to access some of its features. So I think that is a rule of thumb consistent across any applications that we're using, including Google Chrome, including all of the Google apps like Docs, Sheets, and Slides. You always will want to make sure that your applications are the most up to date. And oftentimes you can do this from various areas of your actual, for instance, your browser or on your Zoom. So if you open like your Zoom initially before you go into a meeting, when you first sign in, there's a way usually it'll notify you for an update and you just go ahead and click update. Most applications are very up to date, like in terms of, are very consistent in terms of letting you know if there is an update. So oftentimes it'll give you like a bar. Generally, we should like ignore some of those things, some of those like dialogue things that pop up, like I don't need to worry about this, I just want to sign in. If it says it's an update, it's always encouraged to install that update as soon as possible to make sure your features are working appropriately, and that's going to be applicable to any application, any browser, any system that you're using. You'll want to make sure that it's up to date as much as possible. Yeah, any input on that as well, Ashwin, making sure devices are up to date or easy ways to access updates on Zoom, on Google Chrome, or anything like that that you might have tips on?
Yeah, updating your browser, always important. It keeps your browser up to date in speed, and Google Drive, they sometimes reorganize some of it very, very slightly, like where some of the buttons are. If you can go to different screen modes and just small updates, as long as you keep it updated, you should be able to get those. Yeah. Okay, so moving on, also more on Google Suites, some of the other applications, this is all part of your Google Drive, are Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Presentations. So for Google Presentations, the same way you would click New, but instead of clicking Document, you would click on Presentation. And you should be able to make presentations like the one I just made for you guys right here, just through Google Presentations. Google Sheets is also another function. I personally don't use this very often, but it can be used to track data, to make graphs, and to keep track of numbers. One way to keep track of numbers. Okay, so the next thing with Google Suites is Google Calendar. So all of this is connected. You never need to sign into one or the other. As long as you're signed into your Google account, anything can be accessible. So for Google Calendar, I need to get started on making mine, but this can be used for time management, for scheduling. You can add in events of the week or month, and you could set reminders that you set on your phone and they automatically get added to your Google Calendar. For example, meetings such as these, I got sent a link that got automatically put onto my Google Calendar that I was just able to click on. So yeah, so we're going to do a quick Google Calendar demonstration where I'm going to use mine, which for now is a little blank. I'm still transitioning from the old-fashioned calendars to Google Calendars. Yeah, so as we can see here, little empty for now, but to create an event. So let's say we want to create, so you could create on the top left, click on event, and here you would be able to add in all the preferences and all the details of your event. So let's say that we have Thanksgiving dinner. And this event is on the 20, you would change the date to November 25th, 1 week from today. Wow. And sure, 7:30 to 8:30. And your time zone, I'm on Pacific Standard Time. So you would click that, okay. And then you'd click save and it gets saved onto your 25th. So you have a Thanksgiving dinner at 7:30. And then you could set it to like you get a little notification 30 minutes before or however long before you want. And then this can be really useful to organize all the events you have for every day. I just use it for some of my important events, but it is very structured and you get notifications for whichever events that you want to set them up for, and it can be very useful. Yeah, so any questions with Google Calendar? Do any of you guys already use Google Calendar? Yeah, thumbs up.
And if you come to, or if you get invited to a lot of initiate justice events or meetings or things like that, we use Google Calendar often. So sometimes we will send you links, and those invites, like those Google invites that come from meetings or things of that nature, usually smaller meetings, you can add those. Once you accept them, they go straight to your Google Calendar. So if you do already have a Google Calendar, you can do that. And we've also talked about making that a more consistent thing for our outside member and outside organizing, like meetings, events, and having an option for you guys to add those directly to your Google Calendars. That way it's convenient, it notifies you, and you can stay up to date on what's happening and what's coming up as you schedule throughout, your weeks and your months and your days.
So I have a question, right? So what I'm hearing now, I'm not sure if I'm understanding this correctly. So if I download the Google Calendar, you're telling me, or I'm understanding that when Innate Justice has an event, it'll go straight to my Google Calendar automatically?
Yeah, so whenever you have your Google account set up, which if any of you guys do not have set up later, we're going to go through step by step of how to set it up later on during this meeting. So once you have that set up, you'll have access to all of these different functions. Your Google Drive, your Gmail, your Google Calendar. You won't have to log in a separate time. Everything just gets, like for example, if Antoinette sends an email about an Initiate Justice meeting, it'll get automatically put onto your calendar. You don't have to add it or anything.
Okay, because I was just thinking today, I was like, on Daisy, she sent the email about this meeting right here. So, and I was like, okay, I'll just depend on Daisy to give me information on when they're gonna have a meeting. But this sounds even more effective than how I was thinking.
Yeah, and even Ruben, if I can step in, Ashwin, if for any Initiate Justice events that we have folks registered through Zoom, any of the events that we host that we have folks registered through Zoom, you automatically receive an email confirmation that says, thank you for registering for whatever event it is that we're hosting. And usually in that email, it gives you the option to add that event to your calendar. And if you have Google Calendar, you just have to click on that link and it'll ask you for your permission to access your calendar. Once you hit yes, it'll ask you to save the invitation, and then you automatically have that event saved on your calendar. You'll receive that notification, however minutes in advance, saying, hey, reminder today at 6:30 p.m. presentation with Ashwin, and Initiate Justice, whatever the case may be. So I highly recommend people who utilize the Initiate Justice event registration page on Zoom to look out for that confirmation email, because it usually is on there where it says save to Google Calendar, and that will allow it to be added to your calendar, where you can easily access the event through there.
Okay, thank you.
In addition to
Yeah,
that,
and one thing that Daisy mentioned, oh, go ahead.
So sorry, Antoinette, I didn't mean to do that. I find it useful too, because a lot of the emails that I get that do have a date attached to it, it does give me the option, not just with Wonderful Initiate Justice, but with doctor's appointments and whatever, I still am able to connect those to my Google Calendar, and I get a lovely notification. You also can add more than one notification. I know I need 30 minutes, 10 minutes, and 5 minutes. So I need all those notifications. So you can add more than one notification, even up to, I think it's even up to a day or a week in advance too, so that you can put notification in. But aside from, even if the participant is, whoever's sending me the Gmail is assigned to Google Calendar or not, as long as it's in your Gmail is in sync with your calendar, a lot of this stuff will give you that option. It'll say, hey, we noticed that you do have a date set up. Let's go ahead and put that in your calendar. And it does it for parent-teacher conference. It does it for a lot of other stuff. So syncing your Google account to a lot of your other outside stuff is really, really helpful and useful. Thank you. And I'm sorry again, Antoinette.
No, thank you, Christine. You uplifted exactly what I was planning to highlight, which is that option to have multiple notifications, to change how early you want to be notified, or you want to be notified 5 minutes before, a day in advance, a week in advance. So thank you for that input, Christine.
Okay, so now we're going to get moving on to the next part of our presentation, which is emails and setting up our Google Gmail accounts. Okay, so your Gmail. So why Gmail is important? So email is a very important method of communication that is fast, cheap, and accessible. So the benefits of having a Gmail in particular is that it has a huge storage space of, you could have tens of thousands of emails. You can access your Gmail from anywhere. And you can store and save emails. And it's easy to search for old emails and organize, which I'll be showing you guys later. Okay, so now we're going to slowly move into setting up our Gmail accounts. So some of the things to keep in mind before setting up: make sure that you don't add any personal information in your Gmail username. So that's one of the few things that everyone can see. As you can see, this is mine. So it's just Ashwin, the first 4 letters of my last name, 1@gmail.com. So you could try to keep it very simple, maybe add a number or 2. So just keep it private and professional. And this is something that you guys are going to be keeping forever. And changing your email creates a lot of confusion with when you sent it in different accounts. So it's good to create one email account that is private and professional, or username that's private and professional. Okay, so how to set up. So if you guys all go into your Google Chrome and and then type in the link www.gmail.com. You guys could all do this now as I'm speaking if you guys don't have it set up already. You could go to www.gmail.com and click on create account. So maybe if someone can also type these steps into the chat, if I move too fast, that would be great too. A brief version of these. Thank you. Yeah. So once you click create account, this little sign up form will appear. So follow all the directions by entering the required information. And I guess the most important part on this page is making sure to create a strong password. And this is a password that includes letters, symbols, numbers. And for my personal preference, Google password is the one long password that I try to remember, as it's important to log into different accounts. So that's just one thing to keep in mind if your computer offers to save an optional and pre-made password for you. Yeah, so for this step, just first name, last name, username. And then for the username, everyone that has a Gmail has to have a different username. So it might be common that you type something in and you get, we can't make this account because someone already has an account with that Gmail username. So if you guys try to make an account with the same one I have, Ashwin Vasu 1, it won't let you create one because that account already exists. Yeah, similar to usernames on, I guess, any website. Yeah, so once you guys set up your name and your password, you'll move on to verify your account. And this is very important for the security factor, where it uses a two-step verification process to make sure it's you that's accessing your account, because almost a lot of your information is on Google. And once you type in your phone number, you should receive a text message from Google with the verification code. And you would enter that code in and click on verify to set up your account. Yeah, just your standard phone number. And then the verification code should come up in your text message. And yeah, this presentation will be up, and I guess all the steps will also be in the chat. And you should be seeing the screen similar to what I have on the pictures. Yeah. So the next step is to add some of your personal information, like your name and your birthday, and then you would review Google's terms of policy. I just clicked the check button for that. Yeah, name, birthday, and gender. And then once you do that, your account will be created. And with that, you can start using Gmail. And this is a platform you could use to organize and send all of your emails. And I guess one of the most important things is make sure not to use your personal email to subscribe to too many accounts. And this includes, like, a lot of websites will ask you, oh, please provide your email address before moving on. Always either skip that function or create another Google spam account just for all your spam emails. This includes emails about, like, discounts or random websites, as they kind of crowd in and you miss a lot of your important emails that you have to read. And if by accident you do subscribe to a spam account, you can block a certain sender, and I'll show you guys with my email. And another important function is starring and flagging, which we're going to look at right now. So I'm going to give you guys a little demonstration with my UCLA school email, which I don't use that often, but I just have it in case. So I'm going to open that up right now.
While you open that, I think we have a question from Christine.
Any suggestions for somebody who has been a, let's just say, Yahoo user for their entire life, and then now they are like, hey, I want to utilize Google, but you know, you don't want to cut ties with Yahoo. So what would you like, any suggestions? Like, would you create your username to be the same as Yahoo, just with @Gmail, or would you just be like, just start off, you know, brand new? There's no way to link the accounts, right, or anything like that. It's just starting off with Gmail. Is it a totally different platform?
Yes, so Gmail will be a different platform, and it's common to have multiple different email accounts. And I believe if you go on to Mail, all your email comes up on that account, but Gmail and Yahoo will be separate.
I will add, Ashwin, if I can, just because I am in that boat in that I have been a yahoo.com user, and Christine, we're aging ourselves, but that's how you know how old you are. I have a yahoo.com account, and I use that as my primary email, but I also have a Gmail because if you're an Android user, Team Android, hello, you have to create a Gmail account for your phone. And so I have that Gmail account set up, and I use the Gmail account really to manage my calendar. So I don't really use the Gmail account. It's a separate email address, like name and everything, a different platform. But what I do use my personal Gmail account is for my calendar because of the Google aspect of being able to manage that versus Yahoo. It's a little difficult for me to be able to do that. But I think if you're able to kind of like differentiate between the two, and what do you use for primary, what do you use for spam, or whatever the case may be, I think it is manageable. It just depends on the person. But I highly recommend the Google Calendar feature because I think it makes life so much easier.
Yeah, so by setting up your Google account, you'll have access to all of the different functions with Google. And I guess slowly, if you want, you can transition into using Gmail. I would recommend it as it's a widely used platform, especially nowadays. Yeah, so for using Gmail, some of the things you can do, if one of these emails, for example, is something that you don't want to see, or like a spam email, you could click on the delete function, like this first one right here, and then that email would go to your trash. If there's an email that you find really important that you want to star, you would click on the star function. This is Peaks and Professors. Maybe I'm interested in doing one of their events this weekend. So I'd star it. And if I go to my starred email, this would show up. Another important thing you can do, your spam. If you go into your spam, you could see all of the email that you put on there. You could go to your trash and see all of the email you deleted if you accidentally deleted some email. Other than that, you could snooze certain emails. And then to compose an email, you would click on this compose button. And then I could send an email to myself if I want. And then on here, you could type up your email. I sometimes, if it's a longer important email, I type it up on Google Docs and then paste it onto my email. And you should also be able to add files to email, attach files if there's anything. Connect it with your Google Drive. add images, anything you want to your emails. So any questions with email or anything you guys want to see with Gmail?
Real quick, while y'all process and think of maybe some potential questions, I do want to highlight Ashwin mentioned the spam inbox where you can go to check any emails that have been like filtered out of your main primary inbox. This is also a good place if you are ever looking for an email that you were sent and maybe you're having a hard time locating it. Sometimes emails get filtered into spam by mistake simply because maybe like the words in them are giving spam vibes to Google, or maybe they're from someone that generally sends spam emails, or the subject of the email might sometimes be reference or look like an advertisement. And so you can also check your spam inbox if you're looking for an email. And also sometimes if you're working with different, so a lot of things are online now, insurance, like I'm getting new insurance right now for my car. And when they send documents, they're like, hey, by the way, if you don't get our email, check your spam. Sometimes our emails get filtered into spam. And so sometimes when you're working with various companies or retailers, you can use your spam for that. Also, he mentioned the snooze function. And I think that that's a very convenient option. So like, for instance, currently I am on vacation, not on vacation, we're at a staff retreat. And so a lot of our emails, I have a vacation responder on. But for some of them, I'm opening them because I do tend to work off the clock, but I click snooze and it allows me to choose when I want that email to reappear at the top of my inbox. So when do I want to be notified about this email again? You can snooze it for a week, which is generally what I'm doing, snoozing it for a week or two. You can snooze it and have it reappear or re-notify you on a specific day. So say, for instance, it's not an important email, but it's maybe a payment reminder, and I want to snooze it until that day or the day before that payment. You can do that, and it'll be really convenient because it'll re-notify you. It'll come up as if it's a new email, and it'll remind you again about this particular action, if there's an action item involved or what may have you. So those two are very, I think, convenient things to keep in mind and very important to always remember. But yes, any questions?
What if sometime your Gmail, when you go to mark something as spam, it doesn't give you the option, it just says like send to promotions or delete. But like you're trying to basically eliminate yourself from having to, interact with the email completely going forward. Cause I know like in my work email account, I try to like mark some of our assignment emails as spam, and it'll just say send in promotions. It won't let me mark it. Experience that.
For spam emails, I usually click here and then click block. So how I got there was, if I want to block this account, for example, I would click on the email, click on these three little dots on the side and click block or report spam. Both of these work. If you block it, then this email just won't pop up again. And if you report spam, it'll go into your spam box. Yeah. Any other questions?
You can also block emails or unsubscribe from emails individually with that particular sender. So if you go into an email, oftentimes if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the email, there's a footer with their information. And this is required by law. They'll have a footer with their information, and there will be an unsubscribe option, or like stop receiving these emails, or something of that nature. Usually it says unsubscribe. And so that's always a way that you can make sure you're not receiving those emails too.
Yeah. So the last thing I have is creating an your electronic signature. So that's when, for example, if you get emails from Antoinette with Initiate Justice, at the bottom you see something like this second picture down here with a name, a signature, and the way to create that is you would go to your Gmail, and in the top right you would click Settings. And in the settings, there should be a signature section where you could add in a signature that you want. And this is totally customizable. You should be able to add in a picture. You can add in your name, your phone number, or whatever information you want to provide to people that you're sending emails to. And this is something you could always like add in or exclude from emails if you would like. You could always turn off the function if you don't want it. Yeah, and once you put in your signature and design it however you want, it's similar to how we worked on with the Google document. The same functions are there for adding in your signature. So if you want something bold, you would click bold, underlined, a different color. You could modify all those functions. And once you make it, you could click save, and that would add your signature to different emails that you send out. So with that, is there any questions on any part of the presentation? That was all I have for you guys, and tune in for part 2 with more information to come, and we'll be letting you guys know what's on that presentation or what topics we're going to cover soon.
Yes, thank you so much, Ashlyn. Thank you for taking time to put this together to, help provide us with some tools and tips on how to navigate these spaces that are pretty much, very impactful for our success in just, I think, various spaces, whether that be work, whether that be school, whether that be, advocacy. So yeah, are there any questions? Ruben, Jay, Christine, Diana, any final questions or comments?
I just want to say thank you as well, because all the stuff I did know, some I did know, a lot I didn't know, and like you mentioned, Antoinette, this is for work. Like when like I was doing lessons I was doing lessons for Project Paint. So what I had to do was I did know about notes. I did know about the scanning. However, because I couldn't get my my fax machine going, so I used the note. So what I would do is I would record. So what I would do is I record and I'll get everything to and then I would send it to my copy machine, and then once it came out on paper, then I would cut and paste, and I was just going a long ways. But right here, like with this, now docs, I could do it, and I could rearrange it and play with it and learn it, so that's a new tool. And the reason why I just want to say that the reason why I'm over here at a retreat in Big Bear again. So I liked it so much that I came with my tempo this time. Look like I'm all covered up because it's cold out here.
No problem. Thanks, Ruben. And yeah, we imagine that this can become a resource for those who are coming into, for instance, the Institute of Impacted Leaders. I know you graduated from the Institute of Impacted Leaders, and so some of these tools and features might have been helpful throughout that process. And so I know Christine mentioned it in the chat, and this is why we want to create these spaces, understanding that some of these tools are pretty much essential to our success, even just joining this particular community. We do everything on Zoom. We invite you via Google Calendars to some of our meetings. And so I think it is very critical that we are providing you with some foundational understanding of these are the things we use, and here's how you can make sure you are using them and being effective and staying connected with us, but also being effective in your lives. And so I'm glad you found it useful. I'm sorry that we didn't have it sooner for you, but now we do have it. And for those who do come after you, I hope that they find it as useful as you're finding it.
I'm also very jelly, Jay. I have not gone to Big Bear all year, and I just really feel left out of this whole situation. I really need to get to Big Bear. Somebody please invite me. I'm just kidding, but I really probably don't have the time. Anyways, I just want to say thank you so very much, Ashwin. Everything was so informative. It's always good to have a little refresher. There's always something that I didn't know that I learned. So just turn my camera on really quick. Sorry about the background mess, but I can't do that right now. Anyhow, thank you guys so very much. I hope everybody has a great night. I had a great time. As usual with IJ, I always have the greatest time. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I'm jelly. I went to Big Bear a couple of weeks ago and I'm trying to go back. But yeah, I appreciate you, Ashwin, man. You handled it like a champ. You could tell you've done a lot of presentations before. Appreciate it. Nice hard work. Confident speaker, as well as you know about the lesson that you're giving. So appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so we have people. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say thank you all so much for coming and tuning in. And I hope you guys enjoy your Thanksgiving, your week off, your Black Friday, and any plans that you guys have. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And Ashwin, just want to extend our gratitude from Ivy. We've been away on a retreat and you put this whole presentation together for our team. So excited that we're able to offer this to you all. And we are having more of these. So you can join us for sure on Monday, November 29th for the next one with 2 other volunteers from UCLA who are going to be covering some research tips and tools. So doing online research, learning about policy, learning about candidates, learning about local elections. How can you use these online tools to get into that information, get access to that information, and what are some good websites? So that's coming up November 29th at 6:30. If you want to join us for that one, you can register at the link that I just put in the chat. We'll also send you an email. Also coming up prior to that, actually, next week, our healing team has put together a gratitude circle. So we are in a season of gratitude. We want to take a moment and just not only, uplift and be grateful for ourselves and our own lives and experiences, but show gratitude for maybe those who aren't able to be here with us and hold space for them. Show gratitude and hold space for those who are with us, maybe for the first time in years, who are home with us celebrating. So just showing gratitude for all of the various phases of life that we are each in and that our loved ones are going through, and uplifting them. So if you want to join that space for some additional healing, go to our usual link, bit.ly/IJ Healing RSVP, and you can RSVP for that happening on November 25th at 10 a.m. So join us, come be in space and get some uplifting and encouraging words from one another next week. And then don't forget that, as usual, the first Wednesday of the month, December 1st, we have our member meeting. It's the last one of the year. We hope that you all will be able to join us, and that's at tinyurl.com/IJ Monthly 2021. So join us. We're excited to have you for our last member meeting and really just, end out the year with some recognitions of what's been happening at IJ. And yes, any final words, Daisy, Ashwin, before we let everyone go back to their nights in Big Bear?
I think just adding that, we are, don't forget that we did record this event, so we'll have it uploaded to our YouTube with timestamps. So we'll make sure we send out an email with that. So if you wanted to rewatch a certain part of this presentation, you'll be able to and share that with your networks if you wanted to. But appreciate you, Ashwin, for really putting on this great presentation. We got emails from people who weren't able to make it tonight, who are looking forward to the recording. So we know that they are going to be watching this after tonight when it's uploaded on YouTube. So thank you again for your work on this.
Of course. Thank you everyone again for joining.